Hey everybody, welcome back. Glad you're back, and hope you're all doing well in these troubling times. So I wanted to make a quick video this morning just to talk about my change in mindset. And there's a lot of videos out there right now that are how-to videos that are telling you how to prepare food, how to get ready, how to be safe and healthy, and all those things. I think those are all good. And I've, for the most part, been doing the same sort of thing. I think that there's a lot of value in those sort of videos. But this morning, I had a little bit of a change in how I'm approaching what we're about to experience in our lifetime. And needless to say, this is a big event, right? This is an event like we've never seen before in our lifetime, if really ever, right? I'm sure we've had the pandemics before, multiple of those events, but never like this, because we're so well connected. We travel so much now. The world is a different place than it used to be during the Spanish flu and everything else. So our experience today will be much different than it was back then. Of course, some things will be better, some things will be worse, but it's going to definitely be much different. If anything, we're going to be much better informed. Probably an overload of information, right? That's definitely what I'm encountering now. I have friends and family all over the world that are sending me texts, tweets, messages, emails, videos all day long, 24/7, because somebody's up at some point everywhere. So there's a lot of information out there. I have video streams going 24/7. So whenever I look up, I can see the stats. I can see which member of the government is speaking, which borders are being closed, who's being locked down. So it's second by second right now, which is something I've never been so tuned in for before. But my turning point this morning really was talking to a first responder, and in my volunteer capacity in search and rescue, I'm lucky enough to know a number of those people, and I'm lucky enough to be able to volunteer in that capacity. So the discussion this morning was with this first responder, and I said, "Hey, how are things going? How are you?" And the response was fine. I said, are you worried? What are you doing? And yes, there was a level of concern there, just because here in North America, we've seen what's happened in the rest of the world, and we're what I call bracing for impact, right? We know what's coming. We know it's going to be bad, and we're just getting ready, right? So I suggested to him, and I think this is quite selfish of many of us, how the approach that we take. I suggested to him, I said, "Hey, this might be a good time to go on holiday." And I was actually serious with that, because I care about these people and I don't want bad things to happen to them. And I wasn't really thinking about the big picture at all. I wasn't really thinking from my first responders perspective at all. I was simply thinking about my friendship with this person and that I would like them to be safe. So a little bit selfish, and I admit that. And I think that all of us, when we're thinking about our friends and family, we of course are going to be that way, right? We're not thinking about the strangers we don't know. We're thinking about our immediate friends and family, and that's natural. I feel a little bit guilty about that, but I think that all of us are doing that. But the response that I got back from this individual was pretty amazing, and it had the initial impact, but then it also had this long standing impact as well, which is still with me, and that's why I wanted to make this video, so I could share that with all of you. His response to my suggestion of, well, maybe you should go on holiday, was no, this is what we signed up for. And that's all he really needed to say, but he got into a little bit more detail as far as if the first responders are absent, if people like himself go on holiday or call in sick or whatever, that simply goes to his fellow partner in his unit, right? So that means they now have to pick up the slack. That means they are now at more risk. That means volunteers need to get pulled in. That means people that are less trained get pulled in. That means more people suffer. That means more people die. At an individual level, perhaps, how much difference would it make? But once one person does it, then more people do it, just like we see with the toilet paper, right? Where we follow the herd. So his response was, no, this is what we signed up for. This is what I'm doing. And I can't just throw that responsibility on somebody else. So he said, I'll be showing up. and he's right in the middle of it, right? So I would expect him to be heavily exposed to risk. So for me, that was quite interesting. It was the kind of the mental turning point for me. It was, of course, quarantine, social isolation. We all have to do that. But for me, it was, I'm not only going to prepare for being isolated for the next few weeks or maybe months, but what can I do to help the bigger population, right? Is there anything that I can do to help out? And in my search and rescue capabilities or capacity rather, yes, I may be called upon to help out where necessary. And luckily, at a personal level, I have all the PPE, all the personal protective equipment that I need for that. Some people won't, so I'm prepared to do that. But greater than that, I'm looking at what can I do, and I wanted to share some ideas with you that I think that are a healthy thing to think about, because as we're all working from home, we're isolated. It's a completely different, almost foreign type of experience for us, because we're social beings. We want to be out talking to people, having coffee with our friends, having beers, going out for dinner, family birthdays, all these things that we can't do right now. So it is going to have a mental or psychological impact on many of us. I think that looking at this, what I call the coronavirus war at this point, right? We are now at war. Whether we declare that or not, at a personal level, you should see that that's what it is. Many of you did not live through any of the world wars. I did not either. I have parents that did, so I think I have a fairly good understanding of what it was like, and I believe we're moving quickly in that direction. So, what do you do during this sort of situation at a global level? What do we do as individuals? Well, I think one of the things that we need to do is, of course, prepare, and we've been doing that as best we can. Many of my videos talk about that. So we continue to do that. But we also want to support the ongoing operation, right? How do we support this effort? And if we don't, then other people are going to suffer, right? How do we help reduce the suffering? So much like we saw in World War II, and there's lots of examples of this, private industry came to the rescue, and they began manufacturing for the war effort. They began manufacturing things that will help us, that will help us at a global level, and also at a local level too. There's going to be requirements, right? And I think for distribution, especially now that all borders are closed, that's going to be more difficult. So we want to look at it at a local level, right? Think global, act local. I think that's the expression, right? And that applies here as well. So we saw some great examples of that over the last little while. I saw in social media, there was a brewery that is now making hand sanitizer for the local community. Brilliant, right? I think that if you are a business and you are worried about your business going bankrupt, you're worried about laying off all your employees, you're worried about what the impact that's going to make to your local community, then start adapting, right? We must adapt and overcome. And I think that you need to do that now. You need to not wait. You need to not think about your government bailout or your stimulus or your, how you're going to get support, because you may not. You need to stop thinking about how long will this last. Maybe this will be over soon, because it won't. So now is the time to act. Now is the time to think about your business and how your business will survive and maybe even prosper, right? There's no shame in a business that makes money, but a business that doesn't make money is no longer a business. So something to think about, right? And I think those examples that we see there, that we see in social media right now, are fantastic. Other examples might be making masks, right? They may not be good masks, but something is better than nothing, provided that you know how to remove it properly without cross-contamination. What about soap? I used to make soap in my garage, and I'm going to make a video on how to make soap shortly. But, what about making soap? If you got the supplies, maybe you do that as a hobby. Maybe you could give those away to your local community, to the people on the street, right? Wouldn't that be a little bit of positive joy in what could be, for some people, a depressing situation? If you're watching your stocks, that could be depressing, right? Someone drops you off a handmade bar of soap, or maybe a couple. I don't think that's going to hurt, right? So that's something to think about. If you're a business, maybe you move into that business, because we're going to be in this space for a little while. So how do you get involved? How do we contribute? I think that's what a lot of us should be thinking about right now. What's my part in this? And yes, many of you are just on Twitter, and it's the same old thing where we're trying to self-promote and we're trying to do things like that. That's fine, but I think the memes and the jokes and all that are no longer of the value. They no longer have the value they used to have. When I see this now, when I see people doing surveys or doing whatever else they want to do to drive traffic to their site or to try to become popular on Twitter or social media or anything like that, or I see the news trying to sensationalize what we're up against, it's all garbage, right? It's no longer relevant. But I think that, and there's going to be a lot of people that contribute to what we're about to face that don't get credit, right? The days of you being patted on the back and getting a ribbon and getting a star and getting more followers and all of that is going to go away. We will have, of course, people that are popular on Twitter and stuff, but in social media, but I think that can't be the driving force anymore. Much like in wartime, you're not going to get a pat on the back, right? We all have to pull our weight. So I think that's something we need to start thinking about. And it's a hard switch to make for most of us that are used to the lifestyle we've lived. But I think at least and I'm not a fortune teller, I can't tell you what the future is going to be like. But I think that we've never seen an impact of this kind before. And we have to assume this is going to be with us in our lives for at least months. And we will see the impact of this, I think, in many ways for years. But let's just take this a step at a time. I think that's the wisest thing to do. Let's not get too overwhelmed with what's this going to look like in 5 years. Are my stocks going to recover? Don't worry about that right now. If you want to buy more stocks at some point when you think we've hit the bottom, fill your boots. Great opportunity, I would think. Time fixes all wounds, right? So given enough time, everything either goes away or gets fixed. So that's some comfort maybe to some of you. So what are the steps we can take right now to contribute, to be active, to be part of the solution and not be part of the problem? Well, the first thing is something that we've been talking about a lot and something that you're already familiar with, and that's stay safe, right? Don't further burden first responders with your problems. And that may sound harsh, but we're in a harsh time right now. That's reality. So I saw somebody the other day, I was walking down the street, keeping my distance from people, just getting a little vitamin D from the sun. And I saw somebody with a ladder on their roof and they were cleaning their gutters. I recognize the need to clean your gutters, but please understand that if you fall and break your arm, now you're a burden. And we don't need the burden right now. We don't, that's the worst thing you can do on so many levels. Not only are you now taking up room in the hospital, you're taking up staffing, you're taking up supplies, you're taking up time, but now you're exposed to getting infected because hospitals, of course, will be high risk, and you're going to bring that back to your family, into my street, into my community. Don't do that, right? Let's think about what we're doing. And to many of you that are still ignorant as far as the social distancing and not taking this seriously, don't stop thinking about yourself for a moment and think about everybody else. Think about the 80-year-old people out there that you're going to infect, right? Take some responsibility. And maybe you never have in your life, and maybe this is a new thing for you. But when you start to see people dying that you know, and maybe those are going to be friends and family members of yours, think about it for a minute that you caused that and live with that. So sorry I'm so harsh, but that's reality. And of course, these people will be in denial and say, well, maybe they were old and they were going to die anyway, or maybe it wasn't me that gave it to them. But know that it was. If it wasn't them, it was somebody else that you contributed to because you couldn't contain yourself from social distancing. So just going to leave that out there. So good hygiene. So we're still on number one, stay safe, good hygiene, wash your hands, just don't take risks, right? Don't take out that big knife and start carving wood, right? Just leave that for a little while. Exercise and take care of your health, right? Take your meds if you have medicine that you need to take on a regular basis. Now is not the time to start experimenting with that, right? If you're going to run out, make sure you order more. Order a lot more. Order as much as you can within the constraints of your financial situation, or perhaps the amount of what's available. Like don't go crazy. Sorry, I should caveat that. Don't go crazy, right? Leave some for everybody else. But if you can get enough eye drops or whatever it is you take for the next couple of months, that's probably a good idea, right? For several reasons. We don't want to be going out into the public any more than we have to. And they may run out of supply. And if you need that, then it's a good idea to have it. So take care of your health, exercise, eat well, get a routine, get all those things that are going to keep you in a good state of mind, because we're going to be in this for a while. So that's number one. Number two, now that you're supporting yourself, you're thinking about yourself, you got your health dialed in, you're feeling good, think about others, right? Think about your family. We're going to start in the smallest perimeter, and we're going to work our way out. You got yourself covered. Now look at your family. What do they need, right? Start talking to them more. Ask them how are they feeling? Are they exercising? Are they eating well, right? If you've got people that living outside of your house that are family, call them up, have a conversation, listen to what they're saying, right? Active listening. Ask them questions. If they want to hear about your life, what you're doing, great, tell them. But start off by just listening to what they have to say. All right, so now we're going to go out a little more. We're going to talk to our friends, right? That can be on Twitter, IM, right? Facebook, whatever you do, right? Whatever works for you. Call them up maybe. Video conference, great idea, right? So they can see your face, right? Share some experiences, talk about what's going on in their area. It's great to compare notes to what's going on here as compared to maybe Paris, maybe Berlin, maybe London, right? If you have people out there, talk about what it's like. What are you guys eating, right? How are you getting exercise? All those things, right? Let's build that community. Let's talk. That's going to help everybody a lot. Just talking helps a lot. All right, so spreading it out even further, our perimeter of influence, what can we do? How can we help? Look at your community, right? So many of us don't do this very actively. Many of us are, friends, family, work. But now is the time to start thinking about what else can I do? So look at your community. Maybe you want to form a block watch. Maybe you want to get involved in your current block watch. Maybe there's something there that you can help out with. Maybe it's even informal, right? Maybe you all take turns getting groceries. Maybe some of you have a garden. Maybe one of you has a great water filter, or whatever it is, right? Maybe one of you has a gym that you want to sterilize every week or every day or something. I don't know what it is, right? But I'm sure there's some opportunities there. Maybe you do food delivery. The hospitals are going to be in a tight pinch with their first responders. They're going to be working long shifts, 12-hour shifts maybe longer. They're going to come out. They're going to be hungry. They're going to want to eat something. They're not going to have very long to go to sleep. They may even be sleeping in the hospital. Where are they getting their food from? From the vending machines? From the empty department stores or the empty grocery stores that don't have any food left? Right? How's that going to work? When they get sick, who's looking after them? So there's lots of opportunities there, right? For food delivery, for all sorts of things to support our first responders. Now, you may not want to just show up at the hospital with a bag full of groceries, and you may not even want to call them, but you may know somebody in the industry that you can talk to about, hey, is there an opportunity for me to help out? Right now, it's all hands on deck. Everybody's super busy. Communication channels are blocked up. So it's very hard to figure out how to contribute. But take a look at your city. Reach out to your city, maybe on their website, and say that you're available and what can I do to help. Just start there. Start by asking, what can I do to help? And, if you're high risk, then, of course, maybe you don't want to do that. But you can do it in other ways. You can do it by just social distancing and just talking to people, right? So video conferencing, things like that. So everybody can help in a certain way. Manage your risk, though, right? So I do this in a certain order. Right? Number one was stay safe, look after yourself, right? If you are elderly, if you do have other complications in your life from a health perspective, you need to be more careful than other people, of course, right? So don't forget about that. I guess the last thing is really, what can we do to volunteer? Soon we'll be in a state where we understand the situation better. We understand that we all need to contribute, and that understanding is going to hit like a ton of bricks. So it's a good idea to start thinking about that now, right? Go do some studying on first aid, go on the internet and understand the basics, right? ABCs. Do some of that if you want. Get educated on what you can do to support the community, and that's going to help a lot. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say. And I'm pretty emotional today, actually, about this whole thing. And I've don't usually get that emotional, but I think that it's going to be definitely an interesting next few months. And I think that if we stay positive and that we work to help each other and we take the spirit of that first responder that I spoke to today, I think that that's how we win. There's no other way, right? There's no other way. So be good to each other and think about what I said. And I hope that you do well and support your partners and your friends and your family and your community. All right. Stay safe.